Good morning, everyone. My name is Sunny. I take care of Veeam pre-sales in Redington Gulf for the entire Gulf and Saudi region. So today we are going to talk about one of the SaaS offering of Veeam, wherein we'll talk about the Microsoft Office 365, backup requirement. What are the areas wherein we would require backup Office 365, and how we can leverage data protection when it comes to data availability. So first thing foremost, what exactly is Veeam Backup Office 365? So just to start, give you an overview. uh, Microsoft Backup Office 365 for Veeam is the hottest selling product. Um Till now, there are almost 258 million Office 365 users, and out of which 133K have downloaded Veeam Backup for Office 365 to protect their data. So Veeam Backup for Office 365, it's a very hot selling product which most of organizations are using it. Okay. So first thing first, Microsoft Office 365 is a SaaS offering provided by Microsoft, sitting in cloud. Everything is being managed by Microsoft. Why do I need a backup? Right? The first question. So everybody is under the impression that everything has been managed by Microsoft. Why should I take a backup of Office 365? It is not at all required. But uh, if you know that Office 365 carries your email communication, carries your important data, like your SharePoint data, your file servers, your OneDrive's data, your email data, etc., etc. So you need to protect this data at any point of time, right? So there are six reasons why you need to protect Office 365 data, right? So as you all are aware that Office 365 is an hosted environment by Microsoft, wherein you get certain services from Microsoft to run your environment. So for example, in your Office 365 tenant, if at all you accidentally delete some emails, right? And you want to restore it back, then you need to have a copy of your data from where you can recover those files. If you want to keep your data for longer term, let's say if an user leaves the company and still you want to keep the data, there are ways which you can use in Veeam Backup for Office 365. It's available for longer retention policies, etc., etc. It is always advisable to keep a copy of your production data at any point of time in order to protect yourself from any malicious or ransomware attacks. If you have multiple copies of data available in your infrastructure, somehow you can avoid the ransomware attack and your organization is still protected. Then your external security threats, right? Like malicious attacks, like rough apps, some DDoS attacks, etc., etc. From there also, if you want to secure yourself, you need to have a copy of your data available in some other locations. Legal and compliance requirements. You some users who left the company and still you want to keep the data, and for legal purposes, for compliance purposes, you at least should keep your data available for, let's say, an year, 2 year, 3 years, 10 years down the line. So for that purpose also, you need to keep a copy of your data. So if you keep this data in Office 365 premise, it would be a bit expensive. So for that, you use third party softwares to keep a copy of your data. And then last but not the least, managing hybrid deployments and migration. There are lots of organizations who are moving on to a cloud, so they can also use these tools as a migration tool between on premise and Office 365 cloud. It is very easy tool. You can take a backup from on premise using Office 365 and restore it onto an Office 365 tenant as a mailbox or whatever it is, right? So these are the six main reasons, why you need to back up your Office 365 environment, right? Let's go further. Now, from the past 1 year, this pandemic has come, and most of us all are working from home, and we started using the most important, the most familiar platform of Microsoft, which is Microsoft Teams. Most of our business discussions, most of our meetings with the customers and all is happening via Teams. So with the new version of Veeam Backup for Office 365, we have introduced the backup of Microsoft Teams as well, which will give you a more flexibility when it comes to data protection, more reliability when it comes to data protection when you are backing up the entire teams, right? So if somebody would ask why you need a backup of team is a very important component of your business nowadays. If you see, right, lots of file sharing, lots of discussions are happening via team. So there is a requirement in business wherein you need to protect this aspect of business as well. So that's why team backup has been introduced, and it gives you more flexibility when it comes to Office 365 data protection. So we'll talk about this more in detail. So there is an IDC report wherein a firm says why you need to do an Office 365 backup. So there are so many questions around the world, around the community, that Office 365 does not require a backup, but it everything is being maintained by Microsoft. But if you see some insight of the Microsoft data center, wherein they clearly says that the responsibility of the data is relied between end user. What Microsoft promises you to give you the SLA for the services. They'll promise you that the services of your Office 365 will be up and running as per your SLA. But when it comes to data protection, that is your responsibility. You need to make sure that your data is secured, your data is available to you. So for that reason, you protect your Office 365 tenant either using multi-factor authentication, and you protect the entire data usage using a backup software to keep a copy of your data, right? If you want to know more about this research, this white paper, you can go on to this link and you will see the IDC link. Now, when it comes to responsibility, there are two types of responsibility when you sign up for an Office 365 tenant from Microsoft. So one is the Microsoft responsibility, second is your responsibility, right? So what is Microsoft responsibility? Microsoft primary responsibility is they will make sure that the uptime of Microsoft Office 365 cloud services are available. Means you'll be able to reach to the URL, you'll be able to see, browse the services of Microsoft Office 365, etc., etc. When it comes to your responsibility, what is your responsibility? You need to keep an access and control of your data after configuring those services, right? You need to make sure that you are using industry best practices or standards to protect your data, like multi-factor authentication, like token based authentication, etc., etc. That's your responsibility, right? Now when it comes to supporting technology, what Microsoft provides you, Microsoft gives you high availability, right? Microsoft gives you data center to data center geo redundancy. For example, if one of the Microsoft data center goes down, still your service will be available. That is Microsoft responsibility. But when it comes to when it comes to copying your data, or when it comes to the availability of your data, it's your responsibility, right? So what does it mean? That the data which is available inside Office 365, for example, if one data center is down and another data center is up, your service is up, but what about the data? You need to make sure that you at least should have a copy of your data available somewhere in some other location, right? That's your responsibility. Then the important part, this is the most important part, recycle bin. Like, recycle bin maximum gives you 90 days of recoverability when you delete an item from your Office 365 tenant, right? After 90 days, that item is permanently deleted from Microsoft data center, right? This is what the terms and conditions says. So what happens, let's say if you deleted a user and you require the data of that user after 90 days, or you deleted accidentally some objects from your Office 365 tenant and you want to recover it, right? That's not Microsoft responsibility. So if you want to keep that thing protected, what you can do, uh, backup of your data, so that your data is available 24 by 7 and it is recoverable at any point of time. So I'll show you a quick demo wherein I'll show you all the retention policy gaps which can be maintained using Office 365 backup for Veeam, which wherein you see a granular recovery. You see how you can keep a copy of your data onto Veeam backup for Office 365, etc. When it comes to security, infrastructure level security, like the hardware security, physical security, obviously Microsoft provides. But when it comes to data level security, like you want to protect yourself from ransomware attack, malware, hackers, rough apps, etc., etc., all these things you need to take care. So you need to use the industry best practices to protect your data by keeping a copy of your data on another location. Then again, compliance and regulatory, Veeam follows the regulatory authorities, rules and regulations of that respective country wherever they have placed a data center. So they follow the data privacy policies related with that country. But when it comes to data role as a data owner, it's your responsibility to make sure that your data is safe, right? So like the data which you are generating from emails, OneDrive, Microsoft Teams, online SharePoint, you need to make sure that data is protected. So this is a nice slide wherein there is a differentiation between Microsoft responsibilities and your responsibility. So if you see in your responsibilities, most of the things are related with data, which is your responsibility because you have generated that data. You need to protect that data, right? So how do we do this? This is a small slide wherein when it comes to Office 365, what all things are protected. So if you see in inbox or folder data, you can create something called archive policies in Microsoft Office 365. So based on your archive policies, the object can move on to archive. If it is sitting in a deleted item, after almost a month or 3 months, it will be permanently deleted. If you put an policy of auto archive, you can set a policy after 1 month it can move to archive. If it is SharePoint, etc., etc., these are the by default policies which you can create in Office 365, right? But what about when you want a data after 3 months, right? So if you see that most of the average data compromise to discovery is over 140 days, yet your default setting only protects 30 to 90 days. Your email data, your online SharePoint data, or the entire Office 365 tenant data is the most important data for your business, right? Which needs to be available. So if you see on an average, if after 30 to 90 days my data is not available, how you can protect your organization, right? Because email data is that data which you need at any point of time. After 1 year, somebody can ask you for a certain email which is related with some communication. which you need to find out. So if it is sitting in Office 365 and that data is no longer available, you'll not be able to search for that object, right? So how you can do this, this data availability? So everything can be protected using Veeam. When you buy Veeam backup for Office 365, you can back up all those components. You can put your retentions according to your requirement, whether it is 1 week, 2 week, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year, keep forever, right? It depends on you, how do you want to keep your data. So Microsoft Veeam backup for Office 365 protects your entire Office 365 tenant, right? It gives you the same Veeam explorers for the restoration, which gives you a GUI view when it comes to online SharePoint, when it comes to Microsoft Teams, when it comes to uh, uh, Microsoft Active Directory object, etc., etc. Right now, what is Veeam backup for Office 365? Veeam backup for Office 365 is a tool with the help of which you take a backup of mailbox, you take a backup of online SharePoint, you take a backup of OneDrive and Microsoft Teams, right? It gives you a flexibility to keep this data backup available 24 by 7. Now Office 365 backup and recovery, what it does, right? So there are, lots of discussions going around when it comes to protection of your data. So Veeam backup for Office 365 is a tool which can be installed on premise, or it can be installed onto a public cloud platform as well. So when it comes to public cloud platform, Veeam backup for Office 365 gives you a flexibility to integrate your Veeam backup storage either with Microsoft Azure Blob, AWS S3s, or Deep Archive, or a VCSP service provider. So with this, what you will achieve? You will achieve the protection of your Office 365 data, quickly restore individual Office 365 items using granular recovery using Veeam Explorer, which I'll show you in my demo what exactly it means, meet legal and compliance requirements, right? Now, in Veeam, in Veeam backup for Office 365, there are multiple ways with the help of which you can restore an object. So in a nutshell, in this whole slide, we have shown you that there are 40 different ways with the help of which you can restore an Office 365 object. Guys, just imagine 40 different ways. So for example, if it is Exchange Online, right, how you can do it? So if it is Exchange Online, you can restore an Exchange item from a mailbox, you can use it as an attachment, you can restore as a PST file, save as a message file, restore as an Exchange item on premise or onto a different folder. You can restore onto a service provider console, entire folder or mailbox can be restored, etc., etc. Similarly for OneDrive, similarly for online SharePoint, then which is the newest addition, Microsoft Teams. You just see how many restoration options you get when you restore an object from Veeam backup for Office 365. Some of these things I'll show you in my demo as well, what all things you see when it comes to restoring an object from Office 365 tenant, right? So if you see, the total action and the key takeaways, what did we see? That we need to protect Microsoft Office 365 data. Microsoft Office 365 data needs to be protected from for so many reasons. It is not that if you have taken a Microsoft Office 365 subscription, Microsoft will take care of your data. It's your responsibility. There are some nice ebooks available free of cost on this below link, wherein you can read about it, why you need a backup, why you need Microsoft Teams backup, what is the advantage of it, what benefit it will give you when it comes to taking a backup, how are you secured when it comes to lots of disruptions going around the world, which says malicious attack, ransomware attacks, etc., etc. um, you can try this product also by yourself by downloading it from Veeam website. It's absolutely free for 30 days with full functionality. You can install it in your environment, play with it, and you can you can see the look and feel of the product, how it works, how it behaves. So this is the link from where you can download. So this is how it works. So without further ado, let me do one thing. Let me again share my screen, and I'll give you a brief, kind of overview of this product. So I guess you guys can see my screen. So this is how the product looks like. It's a very handy product, almost somewhere at around 40-50 MB. You can install it in maybe 9 or 10 clicks. Next. The console, this is how the console looks like. This is how when you first time log in into this would be empty, the organization part, and you need to configure a couple of things. So this is also similar to Veeam backup and replication. The idea is same. When it comes to technical architecture, also more or less it is same. It again also comprises of all the three components which you see in Veeam backup replication. The guys who are aware of Veeam backup replication, they may relate this console with Veeam backup and replication. So first thing first is your global settings. So in global settings, you see couple of options are there. This is your license tab. You can see how many mailboxes licenses you have. When you go to general options, you see couple of things which according to your requirement you can configure it. So when it comes to backup, what all things you want to backup, you can select according to your requirement. When it comes to notification, you can put SMTP notification, what type of notification you want, from which email ID, uh, when do you want this notifications to be triggered. There are certain parameters which you see in the main console. Then you can also enable RESTful APIs. Veeam provides you the APIs, open APIs, for further use of your data. What it means, let's say if you have taken a backup of your entire Office 365 tenant, and if you have some other product which needs to see these things, like the big data, the data mining, etc., you can provide the access of your Veeam backup data for Office 365 from by enabling these RESTful APIs, and your that application can access Office 365 data which is being backed up by Veeam, right? So these are a couple of important settings which you can configure and see as per your requirement. So it's very simple, very easy. You can use it by yourself, and also help and support, just in case if you need support functions, you can directly click on this, and you will be forwarded to the support ticket. So now, first thing first, as I said in the beginning, Veeam Backup Office 365 is also built on the same platform. Means a technical architecture is more or less same. The first one is your Veeam management server, wherein you configure the organization. The second one is your backup infrastructure, wherein you configure the backup proxy and the backup repository. Just to give you an overview, backup proxy is the component which processes your data, which compresses your data, which makes sure that your data is available for transport. Backup repository is a place wherein you store your data, right? So you have three component: Veeam backup management, which creates the schedule of your data, which keeps an inventory of your data, then your backup repository, and your backup proxy. So first thing first, the organization, Veeam backup management server. As you can see, I have added three different organizations. You can add multiple organization as much as you want. For example, if you have multiple Office 365 tenants, you don't have to buy different softwares. You just need to buy the licenses the number of licenses, and you can add here accordingly. So for example, this is my first organization which is already been added. So just to show you what all options you get when you are adding an organization. So once you click on add organization, you see there are a couple of options which are available. One is Microsoft Office 365, second is hybrid. So if you are using hybrid environment, you can choose it. If you are using Microsoft Office 365 environment, you can choose it. So in my case, it's Office 365. Click on next. Which region you are in? Most probably you will be in default region, because those four regions are for the respective countries. So once you choose your region, you need to define your authentication, right? Most of the users are using multi-factor authentication. So if you are using multi-factor authentication, there are some additional steps you need to perform on your Office 365 tenant, which includes allowing Veeam backup for Office 365 to speak with your Office 365 tenant. All those steps are available on Veeam help center for Office 365. You can go there and you can see what all steps needs to be performed. Second authentication is basic authentication, which very less organizations are using, but this is the easiest way for doing the authentication. So in my case, I'm using Office 365 basic authentication. Then after that, you need to put the username and password. So this username is the required permissions which we have to access your Office 365 tenant. What all permissions do we need? Again, everything is available on Veeam Help Center. What all permissions we need? Click on next. Once you click on next, it will query your Office 365 tenant, right? So when it goes to Office 365 tenant, depends on the permissions which you have allowed, it will see all those permissions. So you can see what all things it is doing, right? So it checks for all the permission roles and all. If everything is green, 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 it means you have a good amount of permissions and everything is good to go. Click on finish. Once you click on finish, this will be added here like this. So you can see your organization here, right? Once the organization has been added, right, after that you need to configure couple of things. So let's go on to backup infrastructure. First thing is backup proxy, which by default will be the Veeam backup Office 365 server. If you want to add more backup repositories, you can add backup repository, depends on the data size and all. So again, it's a distributed architecture, scale out at any point of time. You can scale out this infrastructure, right? Now the important one is the backup repository. Backup repository is a place wherein you store your data, right? This is the most important part, because Office 365 is an Exchange database, so it requires a good repository wherein you can store your data. What all types of repository you can add? Let's see. Click on add repository, click on next. Here you can see what all types of repository you can add. So you can add a local volume of an operating system, wherein Veeam backup for Office 365 is located. You can also use SAN, you can also use NAS, whatever you want. Just put the path here. Once you put the path here, your local repository is added. So in my case, I have already added one repository. This is how it looks like. Click on add, next, define your path, next. That's it. Okay, now this is about the on-premise backup repository. In Veeam backup for Office 365, you can see there is another tab called object storage repositories, right? If you want to keep a track of your Office 365 repository, you want to protect your data. Everybody is aware that object storage repositories are the most cheapest storages available in the cloud. So when it comes to object storages in Veeam backup for Office 365, we support couple of new object storages, for which the options are here. You can see we have S3 compatible storages, which is S3 protocol uses. We uses Amazon S3. you can use Microsoft Azure Blob Storage, you can use IBM Cloud Object Storage. Out of these 4 storages, you can use any of the storage, and you can integrate it with this Veeam backup for Office 365, and you can use the 3-2-1 rule to do a backup of your Office 365 environment. So for example, let's say if you choose Amazon S3, click on next. You don't have to create any VPN in between. Everything will be taken care by Veeam itself. You just need to give Veeam backup Office 365 and internet access. See, if it is Amazon, you need to add an AWS account having S3 access. Once you do this, this will automatically be visible here. If it is Azure Blob, see what all options you get. You need to put the username and password of Azure, which is being provided by Azure having Azure Blob access. So once you do this, this will be added here like this. So in my case, I have added one Azure Blob account. So you can see it says invalid because the subscription is expired, but this will be added here like this. If you see, so this is an Azure Blob storage sitting on Azure. This is the path which I have added as an object storage repository. Once this blob storage is added as an blob storage, you need to just create one scale out backup repository. Means one logical repository, which would be a combination of on-premise repository plus object storage repository. So how you do it? You come to your backup repository. You can click on add repository. So in my case, I have already created one. Let me just edit the options and show you what all options you can get. Name your repository, logical repository, whatever you want. So this is your proxy by default. Here you need to define the on-premise backup repository path. So that is your on-premise backup repository. So once the backup will start, first Veeam will start writing the data on on-premise backup repository. Once you click on next, you can see there is one option called Azure Blob, upload backup data to object storage. Whatever object storage you have added in this object storage repository step, that will be visible here. You can choose the choice of your object storage and you can put in here. In case of a protection, if you want to encrypt that data onto an object storage, you can enable encryption also. Veeam uses AES 256-bit algorithm to encrypt your data. What does it mean? As soon as the backup data has been started onto your on-premise repository, it will get offloading onto an Azure Blob. Once you click on next, this is where you define your retention policies. Depends on your company's requirement. You can put 2 year, 3 year, 25 years, keep forever, or specify some custom number of days. Depends on your requirement for how many days you want to keep it. After that, that's it. Click on finish. You have configured your Veeam backup for Office 365, right? So once this backup repository part is configured, the last thing you need to do is the main thing, to create backup policies, right? Come on to organization, click on your organization. You see some tabs are there on the top. You see there is one tab called backup. When you click on backup, you can define the type of job you want to backup. So in my case, I have created 4 different jobs. So let me edit one of the job and show you how to configure the backup jobs. So once you click on the backup tab on the top, name your backup job, click on next. So you get 2 different options: backup entire organization, backup the following objects. I always recommend to use the backup following object, so it will it will segregate your data in different terms or different folders. It will be easier for you to search. So in my case, I have chosen the backup the following object. Once you click on add, you see there are a couple of options which are visible. So for example, let's say you want to take a mailbox backup. You click on users, you see it will start querying your Office 365 tenant, and it will give you a GUI view to list all the mailboxes which are available in your Office 365 tenant, right? So out of this, you can choose whatever you want to backup. Once you do this, after that, once you add this, you can see it is like here. Select this object, click on edit. You see there are certain options available. You can take a backup of mail, you can take a backup of archive, you can take a backup of OneDrive or SharePoint site related with that user. I always recommend to segregate all those four components. I only want to take a backup of mailbox for this user. Right, so I have chosen the mail, click on OK. Next, if anything you want to exclude, you can add multiple objects in it. So I don't have anything to exclude it. Choose where you want to put the backup, let's say on premise or on cloud, whichever backup repository you choose. Click on next, put your schedule here, whatever schedule you want to put in, depends on your requirement, the same thing which you get. So once you do this, after that just click save. This is how it looks like. Your backup will start. Once the backup will start, this is where you can see all the uh, you know uh, all the job descriptions related with that job, what are the speed, what is the data transfer, etc, etc. Same way you can configure it for OneDrive, same way you can configure it for online SharePoint, same way you can configure it for Microsoft Teams. I'll just quickly show you how to configure Microsoft Teams. Uh, Click on next, same way, same console you see, click on add, what do you want to backup, click on Teams. Once you query it, it will show you the team database, what all users are there, etc, etc. So this is my organization. So I have selected my organization, clicked on next, no exclusion, next. Same way, when you click on next, this will be a backup job which will be created. So in my lab, I have already taken the backup of all those components. So the backup has successfully done. Since you can see here, success, success, success. Let me show you the most important part of a backup software, which is restoration. So in my slide, if you have seen, there are 40 different ways for restoring an object, right? So for let's say for Microsoft Teams, how you can restore an object, right? So if you see, there are multiple ways. If you right click on this, you see explore, point in time recovery, and explore the latest snapshot. So you get both the options. So both the options will give you a visibility of restoring that data. For example, you want to do a point in time, this is how you see. Veeam gives you an GUI view. So on the 14th I have taken the backup. So on 14th I have taken one time backup, so there is only one restore point available. So in your case, if you have multiple backups, you will see a list growing in here, right? And you can choose this option also, which is a very nice option. If somebody had deleted that user data, that also you can see it here if you have multiple backups available. Once you click on finish, there is a new window which will open up, which is called Veeam Explorer for Microsoft Teams. The guys who are aware of VBR concept, Veeam Explorer is the place from where you restore your data. It gives you a GUI view to restore your data. This is how you see your data which is available here. So for example, if you want to restore any post, you can restore it. These are the restoration options you receive. So right now it's a dummy data, that's why nothing is being placed in here. So that's why you can see it's empty. But when it comes to production data, you see the data will be available here, and you can restore the way you want. So this is about Microsoft Teams. Similarly, you can do it for mailboxes. So mailboxes, again, the same console, a new window will open up which says Veeam Explorer for Microsoft Exchange. You can see, so I have taken a backup of one mailbox. So this is how it looks like. This is how it looks like. Let me just expand it. So this is my entire mailbox. So if I click on inbox, so let's see, in inbox I have one email. So if just right click onto it, you can see how many restoration options I get. I can restore it to same mailbox. I can restore it to some other mailbox as an PST, export as a PST file, save it to a desktop, save as a message file, send it as an email to somebody, and compare item properties, right? So these all options you get to restore a single object, right? There is one very nice option which is called e-discovery, which is available in Veeam Backup for Office 365. So just imagine, guys, if you have like maybe 1,000 mailboxes. So right now it's only one mailbox, and from your legal team you receive a query saying that they want to see one email, the user who had left the company, and they have some maybe subject available, or from to who had sent that email, and you want to search that email. Just select your entire Exchange database. On the top you can see there is something called advanced file. Click onto it. It's a very nice tool, gives you lots of flexibility to search a single email also. You can see where you want to see all fields, whatever fields you want to choose what would be the assistant name, how do you want to see, how do you want to search. There are lots of different conditions which are available here, like who are in CC, cell phone, children, etc, etc. There are lots of things which are available here which you can use. So what would be the condition? Let's say if somebody had sent an email with, let's say, PO123, or if you remember the name of that PO number or something like that, is exactly the same, contains, does not contain, equals, lots of conditions are there which you can choose. Click on add to list, run that query, it will search in the entire Exchange database and it will give you result here. So it will search a single email also out of 1,000 mailboxes carrying millions and billions of emails. So this tool is very useful, which gives you a flexibility to search a single email out of entire Exchange database, right? Same goes with online SharePoint also, same goes with OneDrive also, right? So this is how it looks like. This is more or less a kind of overview of Veeam backup for Office 365, which gives you a flexibility of backing up your entire Office 365 tenant. So I've given you a brief demo of it. So for me, this is what I wanted to show it today. Let's see if we have some questions. If anybody has any questions related with this, they can ask me right now, I can answer it. Or if you want to have a more technical demo, we can have a one-to-one demo as well. Let me see, please share the link as text. Imran is asking, guys, if you have any more questions you can send me an email, that is not a problem.
If anyone has any further questions, please send Sunny an email. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer them for you. And please don't hesitate to reach out. If that is all, I will be ending the session now. Thank you all for joining. I hope everyone has a good afternoon.